Yeah. Right before your wrist went down in a flame.
That was, that was the last functioning thing I was able to do with that wrist. Oh, look at that. We're green light already. Let's hear that.
Get the word!
Oh my golly. Did you guys miss us? You had to have missed us. We've been gone for days. There's been no fresh nerds. The only nerds you could get was old, stale, crusty nerds. And now you have
recycled,
fresh, new, brand new nerds about to happen. Welcome to Bid Nerds, everyone. Your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on all the automotive enthusiast auction sites like Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, Rad For Sale, Cars and Bids, and whatever other auction site happens to pop up over the weekend. My name is John Polnick, along with my host, Michael Deeb. How you doing, Michael Deeb?
What's up, dude?
Yeah, we're back. We're back at
finally.
it. Put the band back together.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Sorry about that, folks. If you were going, what the heck? There are no nerds on a Monday? What the heck? That makes my Monday. We ruined your Monday. We will go ahead and take responsibility for that, but nothing else because we are irresponsible. Daily, we make predictions to what we think cars will sell for on all the auction sites because we pick the most interesting ones. We go to Bring a Trailer and we go, which are the most interesting cars on here? There's like 100 cars for sale today. There's some of these are just not that interesting. We narrow it down to the most interesting cars. We nerd out about them right here on the show, and then we make predictions. And then we go back from the previous days when we make those predictions, and we see how we did. And often, we're really bad at it. In fact, that's all we are. So we invite you to join us and help us with these predictions. So let us know your predictions of the cars below in the comments. We do have all the cars that we will talk about today in the about this video section once the video is done being live. So you can play along later and see how we did. Michael Deeb, it's kind of been a long weekend. How you doing?
Good, man. I don't know. That's all.
That was a great little football I sent over to you. How you doing? There's a little segue to Michael Deeb. He's like, I don't know. Dead air. Nothing.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Well, I was eating a donut with an alien there. You could see from the previous picture if you were watching right from the top of the hour.
Why were you at Area 51? Were you guys going to storm Area 51?
So that photo, if you guys watch, so this is a live stream. If you watch it from the very top, you may have seen a picture of myself carrying around a passenger in our. That was the old Cayenne with the manual. That was the, and we picked up a hitchhiker. He's weird looking. I think he was from Sweden, and he brought donuts. So we were like, "Hey, dude, we'll."
It was Seth Rogen.
It was Seth Rogen or his buddy, some alien from wherever. Anyways, we went out to storm Area 51. We saw the big concert. There was nobody out there, man. They had so much stuff.
Was it Pete Tong was out there? Who was it?
Paul Oakenfold did a show for 50 people in the desert, man. It was like we're standing there going, that's actually him. And there's the guys that delivered the porta potties and some dudes selling churros and us, and that was it. That was the only people out there. And all the cops, like every cop in the entire state was out there at Area 51.
That's probably the smallest audience he's played for since the last time he was in the studio.
Right? I mean, it's insane, dude. It was, you couldn't believe it. And, but we went out there and I realized that I'm in my 40s. I tried to Naruto run and that ended poorly for me and I broke my arm.
Gravity's undefeated.
Yeah, man. Let me just tell you. That did not work out well for me, but that's ancient history. Let's get to.
But tell the audience, you didn't just jump in the car and go to the hospital. You just wrapped it with like barbed wire or something and stayed there for another day.
The great thing about Area 51 for the storm, the Area 51 thing, they anticipated so many thousands of people to come. I mean, there was so many facilities out there. I've never seen so many porta potties.
Didn't you say the police were all armed with like automatic rifles and stuff?
Oh, dude, they were, like I said, they had base camp. There's helicopters. They had their police RVs and all their like stuff from Die Hard. But they had a med. They had the tank and everything. It's like the police have themselves an RV.
right.
No, they had an amazing med tent. I mean, they were prepared.
Right.
There were like docs and medical. I mean, they had rows and rows and rows of cots. Like they were anticipating shooting everyone with a machine gun. Hold on,
They were selling.
Patootie here wanted to say hello to everybody. To the
there
show.
she is.
Did you go outside? Do you need to? Okay, here.
Good morning, boss.
So yeah, no, it was a great experience. It was actually a lot of fun. But they had.
But they wrapped you up.
They wrapped me up. They gave me this like temporary splint, and they're like, yeah, you could wait for an ambulance. It'll take about 2.5 hours, or you could take a helicopter ride. That'll be awesome on your insurance policy. Good luck with deductible on that one. I was like, you know what? I got a Cayenne. We're good. It's got a manual. That'll be fun. Lee drove it home. Our friend Lee from London, and he ruined the clutch in that car. I mean, he is.
I can't believe Betsy let him go with you to that event.
Honestly, I don't think she knew me well enough back then.
Yeah.
To know how much of an idiot I am, and like if she lets her husband go with me anywhere, there's gonna be problems.
She just gave birth to a litter of boys and let him go with you to Area 51. Yeah, there's no way. She knew what was going on. He lied.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least it wound up being bad for me and not her husband, so it's all good.
That's good.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, here it is. What we do is we pick these cars, we sort them out, we find the most interesting ones, and we talk about them. And before we give our predictions, we always just kind of like nerd out on why we think these are the most interesting cars. But really, at the beginning of the show, let me just say, don't take our advice. We don't know what we're talking about. We are not advisors here. There's no financial advice here whatsoever. The only thing you should listen to us when we say do anything is to subscribe to this channel. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, hit notifications so you know when we are live, and you can get the freshest nerds possible. And let's go ahead and look at our most recent predictions. So the last show we did was on Friday. We had Bradley Brownell from Rad For Sale. We did some predictions on the most interesting cars on Friday. But we also covered a couple of cars from the weekend because Bring a Trailer is now doing car auctions.
One car,
Saturday.
Car.
Oh, we did one. Okay, so
we did one car.
Let's go over those real quick and see how we did, and then we'll get to today's cars, huh?
What was our car of the day? Was it the roof?
Yeah, why not? Let's go with that 930 because that was just uber.
Yeah. The P-Car Market found this really interesting gray market 1982 Porsche 930 that was never sold in the United States. The person that ordered this car ordered it one of like 42 Special Wishes slant nose. This is an early slant nose with a really interesting bespoke front end on this car. In fact, it doesn't have pop-up headlights. The headlights are actually below the bumper line and in the lower front valance. So they've got driving lights and probably high beams down in there. And by today's standards, those would be illegal in the United States. But this car is here, and let's just sort of say, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, it's grandfathered in because nobody noticed the headlights aren't above the bumper. Really interesting car. As soon as the car was delivered, it was brought to Roof, where they then did a 5-speed manual update. So they took the 4-speed G915 and put a G50 5-speed in there. They also put a Roof intercooler and a bespoke exhaust on this thing. So by all accounts, this car is probably making 330 horsepower or somewhere in that neighborhood based on the accessories that are on that motor. And then you've got a Special Wishes car in a beautiful Grand Prix white finish, and even the wheels were painted white. This is a really neat car in the United States. So I thought it might bring 150,000. JP, you just took a slightly more conservative tack at 145. And Bradley, who starts to shake when cars have over $100,000, when there's a comma involved, he doesn't want anything to do with it. He said 140 grand. This car. Oh gosh, you know what? I don't even know if it's sold. Hold on one second. I'm going to hit a button here. It made it up to $149,500, and it looks like JP it's sold at that price. Okay, because P-Car Market takes 2 hours to publish the results. So I just realized I never knew what that car landed at. All right, so that car sold. So there you go. I got the win on that one. Then we'll jump over.
You had mentioned when we were talking about this car, you were thinking that this might be like a $250,000 car, but you were concerned about the platform.
Yeah, I'm surprised it sold at that price. I still think that car is worth a lot more money based on it ticks all these incredible boxes with regards to Porsche rarity, build numbers, the factory, collaboration with both Roof and the 915 Special Wishes. This car should be worth a lot more than 150 grand. It's just on the wrong platform. I truly believe that. This car actually should go to RM Sotheby's and be in a room full of white guys drinking white wine, and you'd get your $250,000 easy on that car.
Or BAT at this point?
BAT for sure. I think this car would bring over 200 on BAT. I think there's
if
equity
you
in
had
that
this
thing.
car and you're looking to take a chance at an auction, I certainly wouldn't be taking a chance at the P-car market with my money in a car like this. I would definitely, if I were looking to take a chance and see if you could really get it to pop, I would try Rad For Sale before I tried P-car market, because Rad For Sale, I think this is like as rad as you get, and they have a small but very, very astute audience, and some of the guys that are watching them. They have some money and they want stuff like this. So I think people should be giving Rad For Sale a try. We are seeing over and over and over again cars bring really good money there, and we're not, because like everything is bringing good money, right? Because
oh my god, the market is so up.
The
right
market
now.
is up big time. So it's very, all these platforms like P-Car Market and even Cars and Bids, I think does this a lot too. They pat themselves on the back on how big a number they're getting for certain cars, but I still think many of them, as much money as they're bringing, are leaving money on the table because they just don't have the reach as the big boys. All right, what else we got?
JP, we also looked at give me 1 second, the 1974 Lancia Fulvia. This was a neat little car offered just across the bay here in Marin County. Just a neat little example. It wasn't anything special. I thought it still might bring in this up market over 20 grand. So I said 23. You parked your bid right at 20, and Bradley Brannell parked it at 18,500. JP, you were right on the money. This car brought $19,750 and sold. I'm telling you, man, that's a tremendous value because the fun factor of that drivetrain is off the chart. Fiats and Alphas are rev-happy car, but this Lancia with the V4 and front-wheel drive is an absolute gas. I mean, it feels like it's revving to 8,000 RPM. It's bananas. For 1.3 liter, it is way more entertaining than the numbers would suggest on paper. That's a fantastic value at 20 grand. Congratulations to the
How do you pronounce the name of this car?
Fulvia.
If you can find that, your girlfriend will be very happy. All right.
Don't forget the jelly. And then let's see, one more. Let's go a couple more, JP. We had also the 1996 Porsche C4S. This was a really nice car. Can you pull that sucker up? Look at that. This car had like 26,000 miles on it. There were a couple of silly modifications, like a harness bar with no harnesses, that turbo wing. He had a second set of forged Kinesis wheels. But by all accounts, the suspension and the brakes on this car were stock. And so even though it kind of looked like a track day hero that somebody would just use on the weekend to set times, the condition of this car really made it look like this guy was just a poser and that this car was never driven in anger. It really stood up well, despite the sort of average photos. So we kind of went high on this car, and I think it was justified. I said 135,000. You went 140. Bradley Brannell went 120. Our car sold at $116,000, and I think that's a fantastic value. I actually think this guy, if he had put it back to stock, would have got 130, 140,000. I think your number would have held up if he had put it back to stock before he photographed the car. Anyways, Bradley was closer, but I'll take the win. And then we looked at a 1983 VW Vanagon Westphalia. The 83s are powered by that little dinky 1.9 liter motor. This is a two-wheel drive, and these cars don't receive a lot of love. So I'm really still learning to figure out which of the VWs are worth the money and which ones aren't. So I incorrectly guessed, this was a Sunday close, by the way. I incorrectly guessed that this car would go over 20 grand. So I said 23,000. You guys kind of laughed at me, and then you got real. JP, you said 18, and Bradley Brannell said 15. And although he was closer, you got the win. That car sold for $16,252. And my education on VW Vanagons continues. And then finally, with Bradley as our guest, he is one of the founders of Radwood and, of course, Rad For Sale. Rad For Sale offered us a 1991 Data East Checkpoint pinball machine from the early 80s, I think, JP, or was it the early 90s?
I believe it was early 90s, yeah, but whatever.
Early 90s. Really cool pinball machine because it's got a Porsche 930 and a Porsche Speedster on the front. That same 930 is painted onto the sides of the pinball machines. It features a spinning Fuchs wheel, and the key is on the left with a Porsche key fob. So it's just a lot of really cool details. This thing looked to be in really nice condition. It was offered out of Seattle, Washington. So I said $3,500. You took $34, just under me, and Bradley went to $3,000. and the pinball machine on Rad For Sale. I mean, we're talking, these guys are like 6 weeks old. This machine brought $3,900 and sold at that price. So I actually had a pretty decent day, but you had a really decent week. JP, you racked up 13 wins to my 8. We each had a Yahtzee, and I want to cover one more result. Also, yesterday when we were not on the air, was a 1991 Volkswagen Vanagon GL Synchro. Now, this one has a 1.9-liter turbo diesel, and it has a 5-speed manual, and it's all-wheel drive. And this thing was offered out of Denver, Colorado, with some aftermarket wheels. Instead of like those really like terrible cloth seats, these have like the beautiful crushed velour that you would expect to see out of like Mark II Volkswagens offered in the United States. This was a really neat car that, you know, to the untrained eyes like mine, looked very similar to the 83 we looked at over the weekend. But this car has all the best equipment on it. And it is also a Westfalia. JP, out of Denver, Colorado, with 200,000 miles. Yesterday, this car sold for $65,000. It was at like 28 or 29,000 in the final hour. It took about 55 minutes to close, and 2 guys fought over it until it reached $65,000. When one guy wrote directly to the other one, he said, "It's all yours. It was fun fighting with you." And then the guy responded back. He said, "Thanks for raising the bid number 30 grand on this thing." But anyway, $65,000. Is that a banana result, or is that what that should bring?
That's wow. Which engine did this have? It looks like a TDI of some sort.
1.9 liter TDI inline 4 with an aftermarket Borg Warner turbocharger, 5-speed, all-wheel drive, electric diff.
Look, it's crazy high. I've never seen a Synchro like a used Synchro go for this kind of number. There's a company up in the Northwest called Go Westy that will take Vanagons, you know, Westphalias in particular, and they'll do Subi swaps on them. They'll put Subaru engines in them, and they'll kind of refurbish and stuff. And they charge over $100,000 for those things.
Wow.
You know, so I mean, which is still way less than your typical RV. But for a Synchro, I mean, and usually Vanagons are not Synchro when it comes to Westphalias. It's very rare to find a Westie with a Synchro with the all-wheel drive. So very, very, very uncommon to find that. So for this thing, 65, yeah, that's definitely a high watermark for a used, conversion. The TDI conversion is a great conversion, and it's kind of cool that it's, you know, it's diesel, so it's going to get, I guess, better fuel economy and everything like that.
Great
but
range.
I still kind of like the Subi swap better because it's, you know, you're going to get more displacement and stuff like that. But you know, at least the turbo diesel's got a little bit of torque. 65 is just
crazy.
Wow. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So my education continues to continue.
Yeah, boy.
But anyway,
it just
that's
seems
a
like
wild
there's
number.
no end to Vanagon info. Yeah. All right, we could do a whole show on just Vanagon.
By the way, that's a great photo right there. I like that you can see the lit up gauges and the headlights on a super dark road with no moon. I really like that photo. I'm glad you landed on that. I think that's very cool.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what you're going to be doing most of the time with this thing is driving from one place to the other and camping and then what a great car. 65 grand. That's a lot.
Boy, right? Isn't that eye-watering? Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was yesterday's cars and the cars from last weekend and everything like that. Let's get to some cars today. And before we do that, make sure you guys hit the subscribe, like, and notification button, like we said before.
Do it now.
Do it now. Come on.
Do it.
Oh boy, that just never gets old, does it? Okay, yeah, it does. All right. So the big, I don't know. It's interesting. You picked a bunch of cars today because I was out of town, and it looks like Bradley sent us or was it Lane that sent us?
Lane sent us a submission. Should we start with that?
Yes, we should, because speaking of Rad For Sale, this is about as rad as you get.
Yeah. I am guessing, and this is me putting on my sleuth coat, that Lane actually knows this car and probably knows the consignor, because Lane lives in Santa Cruz, and suspiciously, our submission also comes from Santa Cruz. It is a 1996 Toyota Supra Coupe. This is not a sport roof, and this is not a turbo, but it is a manual. And despite being super high mileage at 249,815 miles, JP, this car is really clean. check it out, yo. Black on black, which really looks good on the Supra because the lines on this car, in my opinion, are very beautiful. I love the interior on these cars where the entire dash is canted towards the driver, making him feel like a pilot, in my humble opinion. I always thought these were really neat cars. And when I wanted one, I knew I couldn't afford the insurance on a turbo. So I kept thinking that a standard Subaru would still be really fun, a Supra. I wanted this one. I wanted a coupe with a manual, and I knew I couldn't afford the turbo. So that was my fantasy car when I was 25, 26 years old. This one looks really, really nice, and it's amazing how clean it is, that the conditions sort of belie the miles. It makes you think that the miles don't matter because it looks like a brand new car. So Lane, I'm guessing, knows this guy. This is a really neat car, normally aspirated, can't go wrong. What do you think, man? It's at $20,000 already with a $250,000 non-turbo. That's got to be a record, right?
I mean, look, they should you know how movies reboot all the time? You know, like, I don't know, they rebooted, well, I guess Star Wars wasn't really a reboot, but they'll redo.
It was. They absolutely did.
Well, no, because it was the same characters. They didn't reboot Star Wars. They copied it, but they didn't reboot it. They did, but like, what do you call it? Spider-Man has been rebooted, right? They've had, in the last 20 years, they've had 10 different people play Spider-Mans or Batman or whatever. Yep. I think they need to, it's time, you know, they keep making Fast and the Furious movies over and over and over again. What they should do now is just go ahead and reboot it, get completely new actors, replace them, and redo the first one. And this time, when they roll up, they're on the beach, down Santa Monica or wherever the heck they are, and they pull up next to the Ferrari, and the guy's like, "Ferrari, can't afford it, pal." And they should have the car that the douchebag is driving should be in a Supra, and the guy should be like, "Supra, can't afford it, pal." And whatever they're in is like, I don't know, a Daihatsu that's just got a blown turbo in it, and some bald guy, maybe you play this part and you just like go smoke them, and there it is. And so the Supra is now the super expensive car that nobody can afford.
That's really funny,
right? I don't know, this thing, I mean, naturally aspirated, what a testament to Toyota, as per usual. 250,000 miles. I bet it hasn't even been rebuilt or anything.
Unbelievable.
It's missing a center cap. It's got scratches, bumps, and bruises here and there. But like you said, overall, it's in pretty darn nice condition.
It got a starter, an alternator, and a a new clutch with a new rear main sail at 225,000 miles.
Hang out with the DWA guys on a coastal range rally or whatever, and just beat the living daylights out of this car with no guilt. I'm all about it. Where's it going to land?
All. That's a really good question, JP. So our car out of Santa Cruz is sitting at $20,800 on 8 bids with 4 hours to go. I mean, that's already all the money for this thing. But I'm just saying, the audience that's here, the condition of the car, I'm liking this thing. So I'm going to go $24,000, and it could go right by my bid, but I'm going to say $24,000 and send it back to you.
Yeah, I am going to agree with you that it's going to go past your bid. I'm going to say 25, just going right over. But I think I mean, how high? I mean, 250. I guess, if this car hasn't been wrecked, it's a great specimen for like a swap, to do the, what is it, 2JZ? I'm not a JDM guy. So whatever big turbo swap you want to do and something like this is the car to do it. Drive it for a while till you actually drive it with the intention to blow it up. Drive it so hard that you blow the engine so that you can just go ahead and replace the engine with something really big and ridiculous and just go nuts with this, because it's what a great starter.
It is the 2JZ, but most people like the lower compression motors because they can boost the horsepower by changing the turbos and adding intercoolers and get close to 1,000 horsepower out of them. But this is really nice because it's, the higher compression, normally aspirated motor, and this is a great motor on its own. So I would venture a guess that this, this is a 90s car. It's probably everything. You could throw this car at a 964 that's stock and give it fits, Yeah.
I think you'd demolish a 964, wouldn't you?
Well, they're from the same era. I don't think so.
Well,
it's 225. What's
the horsepower? 225?
I think this is probably 225, 230 if I'm remembering correctly, but I don't know. I forget. It's been a while.
Someone
I've
in
had
the
a few
comments
drinks.
tell us how much horsepower one of these has, but
Stock,
or
yeah.
you know, how much horsepower could this thing have left? I can't imagine it's still at factory with 250,000 miles, but it is a Toyota. You can just pour sand in this thing and it'll just keep going.
Seriously,
really
yeah.
cool car. Someone's gonna get something cool. Again, some high watermark numbers.
It'll run on syrup.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see here. Are there any other Toyotas that we should be talking about on?
Absolutely.
interwebs
Let's go
today?
right next door. Bring a Trailer has an
Oh.
alternative for you. Look at this. A 1988 Toyota Supra Turbo 5-speed. This car has a legit 29,000 miles offered out
Wow.
of Jupiter, Florida. There have been a few modifications to this car. Feast your eyes on those 18-inch TSW alloy wheels. I
Yikes.
don't understand why people leave this car largely stock but change the wheels to something that just looks so incorrect. This guy, I think, literally is leaving money on the table by not just putting his stock wheels back on. You're on Bring a Trailer. Put your Japanese cars back to stock, fool. Anyways, limited slip differential, turbocharged motor. It's a 3-liter turbo, but it only makes like 200 horsepower. But this era of cars are starting to move in the right direction. Other modifications include an HKS boost controller, so you can overboost the car, and then aftermarket exhaust as well, made by the same company. But what you're looking at here is truly condition, which is why I think this car should be put back to stock. Those velour seats look like they're basically new. There's pictures, JP, where he opens the door and takes a photo of the door jamb, and the door jamb tells you how young this car is. It's just incredible. It's like there's no dirt or grime or anything in there. This car really looks like it's been preserved really, really well. So if the humidity hasn't damaged this car out of Jupiter, Florida, do we think an 88, that era of Supra Turbo, is going to bring 20 grand and rival our 250,000 mile normally aspirated next generation car? I do not. I just don't think these were as loved as the other ones. But this, if you're looking for one, this is your car. This is as nice a one as we've ever seen. So JP, what do you think? It's got 2.5 hours to go, and it's sitting at $12,000.
Well, our good friend, I mean, this car is responsible for having unleashed the Ram. Rami Mirza, this was his first car, not this car exactly.
Oh my God,
but he
wow.
had one of these as his first car, and I think that just kind of like basically ruined him and unleashed him to our planet, and there's just been like destruction and wreckage in its wake ever since. So
a wake of fire.
Yeah. This boy, it's awesome to see 80s cars like this just so clean. I love it. These pictures are pretty bad, but at least they're doing the job and giving us the information. Yeah, I definitely like this car more than the other one, even though, of course, the later one is the famous car. This car never really had any kind of, I mean, it really was unloved for its time. The 300ZX was a better car in the 80s. It was lighter.
Sure.
It was more nimble. This car was kind of heavy. This car was also around when the 300ZX changed to a new body style in 90, and this thing was just like, what the heck are you doing, Toyota? And Toyota definitely responded in a big way with their Supra later. But this generation was just kind of it really was a sport Camry two-door. So, I mean, it was
That's
just
a
heavy,
good take, actually.
But fantastic to drive, and not unlike the Supra that we just talked about. You could put another 200,000+ miles on this thing and not have any problems with it. So there's something to be said for that. And this would be just a great car to have. But do we think it will bring the money? What do you think? Where's it going to land?
I don't. I just don't. This generation was just never known as a performance alternative, where that other Supra, like we said, even with 250,000 miles and normally aspirated, you could run up the crest and run with the Porsches. I mean, that's a neat car. That being said, this one is super low miles, and I think it's on the right platform. It's on BAT. If somebody can look past those wheels and the exhaust and realize that they've got like a really well preserved example on their hands here, I think this car could find a late flurry and make it to, but not exceed $20,000. So I'm going to park my bid at 20 grand, hopeful that, with an up market, that this thing is going to do well in the end.
Where is it now? I'm sorry.
12 grand.
12 grand.
2.5 hours to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 19. I should probably go over on this one because it is such low miles, and the fact that it's a hardtop is definitely helping it. Most of these, or most of the turbos were target top, which is what I would want in a car like this personally, because I like having the roof come off. But I think most people disagree with me in that regard. So the coupe definitely
interesting about that, right?
Yeah. And the thing is with the wheels, I think that's going to hurt it. I think that's going to be something that people are going to pass over it and not look and notice that it's a 30,000 mile car. So you may not quite get there because
there's no photo of the stock wheels, which leads me to believe that the consignor doesn't have them.
I'm sure they don't have them.
That's a huge mistake. If he went out and found them for $800, he'd get $4,000 more for the car.
Judging on the photos and the poor photos and poor video, I suspect that they don't have the original wheels.
I don't either.
Because poor judgment is being displayed here. Let's just put it that way. Okay, what else we got? Let's get out of the Toyota scene. We got something else?
Yeah, let's go over. I'm going to put it right in this weird spot. Cars and Bids has a 2007 BMW M5, JP. Out of Carlsbad,
big on
California.
M5s lately. What the heck?
Out of Carlsbad, California. Look at this black on black, 67,000 mile original M5 with a V10 rear wheel drive and a manual alert. This car's got a 6-speed manual and it's black sapphire metallic. This car is a twin to the car we covered on Thursday, the 2008 BMW M5 that had 46,000 miles. Now, on BAT last week, the black on black car with the aluminum inlays and 46,000 miles brought a whopping $38,250 and sold at that price. Now we go to Cars and Bids, and we're looking at a 2007 with 67,000 miles, and it's the exact same car. And again, in California, it's Carlsbad, California. So let's read the tea leaves here. A couple days ago, our car was sitting at 20,000, then 22,000, and then 4 days ago, somebody did a knockout bid and went from 22 grand up to $37,500, which is $750 less than the selling price of the other car on BAT. Wow. So I am going to go ahead and say that despite having 13 bids and despite having an hour and 45 minutes to go, this car is done. It's a no reserve, and I think it's going to sell at this price. I think this car that guy won it. I don't think anybody's going to come in over him because then they'd be paying more for the other car with 20,000, 50% more miles. So I think this car is going to sell for $37,500. But that's an interesting thing that happened on Doug DeMuro's site, that somebody went that high for the knockout blow.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't have gotten that high had someone not done that. That was a dumb move on whoever you are buying this car. You could have waited it out and probably gotten this car for the high 20s is really where
or low 30s
I don't know on Cars and Bids you think
maybe
it would have broken 30. I just don't think so. So that was just a bonehead move on this guy, and I don't know what to do as a bid nerds. This is a first. There's no place for me to go because no one's going to bid below this, and no one's going to outbid this guy. So yeah, I mean, can we do an agree on price? We're doing new. I guess I got to do the over. I mean, there you go. You get the advantage of going first.
It's an ace. I served an ace.
37.5, you said, so I'll go 38.
Okay.
And I don't believe that. I mean, I agree. I agree with you 100%. What's up with the top of this door card? It looks like it's this is one of those things where it looks like the thing's been wet or something like that because there's like drip marks in the leather, like they left the window down in a rainstorm or something like that. But yeah,
so strange.
Whoever's getting this car, you're kind of a moron. You don't know how auctions work. He thinks he's hitting a knockout blow on a car that didn't need it. On a platform that wouldn't have done.
Tom Alford really wants this car, and he's trying to take it away from Ducati.
Tom is gonna get it. It is Tom's car. I mean, Tom could go ahead and get his insurance policy, set up his travel plans, and just
Tom's
right now,
not watching the show today because he's on his way to the bank to get a cashier's check to send to the consignor. But it's interesting. And now, what you have to look at is that the market with two black low mile manuals has yielded $38,000 twice in a row. I wonder if that's going to bring more manual M5s to the foreground. I didn't think there were that many out there. So to see two in 1 week and bring kind of the same money is pretty crazy. So it'll be interesting to watch. I don't think we'll cover one again for a while, but it'll be interesting to notice if there's a lot of this generation.
Please don't. I'm really over these. And this one with the wood interior. Yuck.
Totes hid.
All right.
P-Car Market is trying to sell a 914. It's a 1974 2-liter in Olympic blue. offered to us out of Boston, Massachusetts. The 5-digit odometer shows 76,000 miles, but this car probably has 176,000 miles. The last time the motor was rebuilt, they overboarded. So this car actually is pumping out 2.1 liter of displacement. It's a nice looking car, but it doesn't look to be in spectacular condition. And when 914's in not good condition, they don't bring real money. A car either has to be restored or really nice or have some nice accessories for the cars to bring serious money, which would be in the high 20s to the 30s. And all the money for one of these things would be 40 grand. But our car offered, again, out of Boston, Mass, with 3 hours to go, is sitting at just $12,000. And I don't think this thing is going to see the light of day. I don't think it's going to make 20 grand. And so I just wonder what was promised to this consignor if this car is going to wind up in the deal tank because they set his expectations incorrectly, being P car market, the place for Porsches, when Porsches. I don't think they have the aptitude to sell an air-cooled car, something as obscure as this one. And JP, what are the name of those wheels?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't even paying attention to those. I was distracted by the logo on the hood. The first thing you notice whenever you see a 914 is whether or not some idiot put the crest on the nose. 914s did not have that. So that's the first thing. When you see that, you're like, okay, this must be a repaint. So, I mean, this is such a cool color, and I love the script on the side. Oh, yeah, those are just the Fuchs, the four-spoke Fuchs on the side of this. So they're just not, the pedals aren't painted. So if you're listening to this on audio, this car is like, it's not a Mexico. What color is this? Riviera, Mexico?
Olympic blue.
Olympic blue. God, Porsche has so many versions of this blue.
I want to say real quick take. Mm-hmm. It's darker than Golf, but lighter than Riviera. That's a pretty blue. I like that color.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a baby blue basically. It's one of the Porsche baby blues with the black script on the side, which I'm sure is not stock because they also have the logo on the front too. But yeah, the Fuchs are the 4-pedal Fuchs. Usually the Fuchs of this generation have black pedals. These are kind of monochromatic, and I actually love these because they're all aluminum. That's just so not polished. It looks so good.
Yeah.
I want to love this car. This is the first Porsche that I remember as a kid. My neighbor's mom had one, and my neighbor kid, he was, we were like 5 or 6, and he's like, my mom has a Porsche, and it goes 100 miles an hour. I'm like, no way, nothing goes 100 miles an hour. And I don't know if this car would go 100 miles an hour. This one probably would with the 2.1. I don't know if hers would. This car ain't going to make it. What's your number?
JP, it's sitting at $12,681. It's got 3 hours to go. Like I said, it's overboard. It's got Weber carbs. It's got an Abarth Onza exhaust sticking out of the back of it. There are a couple of neat pieces here, but the car just doesn't look like it's in that great a condition. 100 horsepower 914 is nothing to shake a stick at, but I'm not sure I believe in this car, and I certainly don't believe in the platform. So I'm going to say $15,000 that it maybe has another $2,000 in it.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong take. I'll go. What did you say? 15 what?
15 even.
Just 15 even. Okay, yeah.
It's at 12.7 right now.
I'm gonna go right under you and go 14.9 because that was gonna be my number. And I want to like this car. I want to believe in it, but I don't. This is the kind of car that if you could actually put eyes on it, you might say, okay, yeah, you know what, I'll step up because drive it, see what it looks like. But really, this is the kind of car. It's not a collector level car, right? It's obviously got all kinds of issues with it cosmetically, but it could be a magnificent driver. This could be the exact kind of 914 you want to just mob around on because it's not perfect. The paint's not original.
Mikey Hashtags drives a car that doesn't even look as nice as this, but drives great, and he rips the hell out of that car. He's had it for years. It wasn't your old car. Yeah. And Mikey Hashtags rocks this cool 914, and it doesn't have to be a looker to be all the fun in the world. And he drives that car anywhere it'll go.
And there's no way to really determine how this car drives from an auction. You don't know. I mean, getting into this thing, the linkage on these, shifting these is always a challenge, even with the best 914. So you just don't know how it's sorted, even if all the parts look good and you can have a bunch of receipts saying you've had this done and that done and all this stuff. You just don't know a 914. And there's no way you could possibly buy a 914 that you intend to drive without driving it first. Buying a 914 on an auction is just a terrible, terrible idea. So on a bad auction site on top of it is extra terrible. So let's good luck to the seller and good luck to P-Car Market trying to move this thing.
All right, JP, last car, and we picked a weird one. Check it out. Let's go to Bring a Trailer. They've got a 1982 Vauxhall Chevette with a 6-speed manual, a no reserve auction. This particular car that doesn't look anything like a Vauxhall Chevette has been completely reimagined and has a AP1 Honda S2000 drivetrain in it. That's the 2-liter VTEC that makes 240 horsepower with a limited slip differential, rear-wheel drive, and a 6-speed manual. I will go out immediately on a limb and say that this guy's got very average photos and a super interesting car. He did not post a driving video. And I was like, fool, somebody needs to hear that motor and see this car rip around a turn so that you can get your money. And I think he really left money on the table by not including a driving video in this listing on BAT. A really neat car. It's a very interesting build. He even put the Honda S2000 dashboard and seats into the Chevette. It's interesting that this stuff fits. It doesn't seem like it required a lot of modifications to get it in there, but like I said, I don't know how it comes together because there's no driving video. Still photos aren't going to do this car justice. You need to hear this thing and see it moving, because I'm guessing this car probably weighs less than a Honda S2000, so it's going to be a quicker car than a Honda S2000. I don't know. Made a huge mistake here, but really neat car, offered out of Vauxhall, North Carolina. The drivetrain shows 99,000 miles, but its true mileage unknown. Very interesting build, and a really interesting lot. I don't know that I want to own it, but I'd love to go for a ride in it. What a neat little car. What do you think?
I could have been convinced. I'm with you. It would be really great to see a video of what this thing drives like. I could have gotten, and that maybe could have gotten there. Until you look at the interior pictures, you're right. They did put the dashboard and the seats and everything in. If you're listening to this on a podcast, I don't know how to possibly describe what the hell is going on with this dashboard, because normally the dashboard meets the windshield. And the way they did this, they took a bunch of carbon fiber pieces, and where the dashboard would normally end, there's another 6 inches till the windshield starts. So they just filled in that gap with it's just the weirdest thing. So half of the opening, when you open the door, you're looking at the side of the dash is going literally, is that a foot and a half before the interior begins? I mean, it's just like, what in the hell how do you get in and out of this thing? I mean, it's just
It looks like you're getting in and sitting in the back seat.
and is that what they did? It looks like they removed the back seat so that you're sitting in the middle of this car. There are no back seats. This is a hatchback with no back seats. It has the firewall and the hoops that you have from an S2000 right behind the seats. That just mangles this car and any potential for, I think, anyone to really take it seriously.
Of course.
Looking at the exterior, well, and I know you say of course because it is kind of a ridiculous thing, but looking at the exterior, I could be convinced. I mean, the exterior is pretty freaking cool. The proportions are awesome. These big stupid flares that they put on it,
amazing.
The terrible wheels. If they'd have chosen some period correct wheels of some sort, then I think it really would have been extra cool, like some, I don't know, Group 2 Campanellos or something like that. Something that looks, 70s would have been great, but these wheels are decidedly aftermarket 90s. And I actually think
they might be stock S2000 wheels. It might have 4 fronts, 4 front S2000 wheels. They're 16-inch.
Logo in the middle, or do you think they just swapped?
It's a different logo.
Yeah,
change the logo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, I just think that was a bad idea. I think because this car is, I get the idea of, okay, well, we're going to match up, but we're going to give people some cue that this engine powertrain is something from Honda or whatever. Okay, neat. But you've got these 4 really cool rally lights on the nose and this Berserko splitter sticking out and these big square headlights. It's just, there's fun to this. This has potential if they had just put some, like I said, the period correct wheels and left the interior alone, or at least just made whatever the interior that came with this car, sported it up somehow. Again, period correct would have been interesting, but this car is no bueno.
Yeah, genius idea, sad execution.
Yet so close. The thing that's sad about the execution isn't that they did a bad job. And that's what's so disappointing here, is that whoever did this had the skill to do it right. They just didn't have the wherewithal or aesthetic.
Or the money.
Yeah, well, I think they had the money. I don't think there's any question that they had. No, I mean, I totally disagree with that because look at the stuff. They're using custom carbon fiber bits. And, they fabbed all that stuff. The person had the money and the skills to do something really, really cool. And they're this close. But then they just off the ledge they went. Where's this car going to land other than the bottom of the cliff?
Yeah, there's no comps. Vauxhall is a British subsidiary of GM. Opel is like GM in Germany. Vauxhall is like the cousin of that counterpart. And it's literally called a Chevette, right? I mean, this is so funny. But this little tiny hatchback was clearly in response to the success of the Volkswagen GTI, creating a hot hatch, in-town car. But this thing now, somebody probably found a S2000 in a junkyard and took the drivetrain and some of the cosmetics out of it and made this Frankenstein car. I love the idea, but there's no comps for this. It's a no reserve auction, JP. It's at an hour and a half to go out of North Carolina. It's sitting at $15,750. And I think that's really close to where my bid was going to be. I'm going to go 20 grand.
Wow.
And I think that's still a pretty good deal because even at 20 grand, you could afford to spend a little bit more money and maybe clean some of those things up. The performance on this has got to be pretty fun. If this thing weighs like 2,000 pounds, which I suspect it could be closer to 2,000 than the 2,800 pounds a stock S2000 would weigh, if it's, closer to that, like even if it's 2,200 pounds, you're talking about like this thing's going to be lit. It's going to be fun.
Pull all that silly stuff out of the back seat, put a roll cage in there, and make this a race car. And with that powertrain, you've got something here. You really do.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to get to 20. I'm going to say 19.5.
All right. Fair enough.
And
can't argue with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, gosh, guys, that was those were definitely interesting cars of the day. If you have a car that you are selling on BAT or Rad For Sale or something like that, and you want us to talk about it, let us know. Or forget it. It's not even a car that you're selling. There's just something coming up that you think is interesting. If you think the most interesting car of the day on Thursday is something, fill in the blank, whatever, let us know. Yeah. We'll put that in the list. We'll review the cars that you guys tell us. Otherwise, we'll pick them for you, and that's just Dee will just keep picking M5s all day long.
Vauxhall Chevettes.
Here's another M5, and then, look at this. We have a really interesting M5, and then here's another M5. Oh, sprinkling an Audi in there and some Italian car.
Which Toyota Supra would you rather have? The M5? Thank you, Lane, for submitting the Toyota Supra. I hope your friend does well with the car. Or maybe it's his and he doesn't want us to know.
We'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We do the show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time if we're on the case. Yesterday we were not. We were out shooting some commercials for Volkswagen yesterday. That was kind of cool up in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks, Kai and T. Cruz. I actually hung out with my old buddy Kai Roberts, who the previous owner of this car behind me.
Yeah. He's got a great collection of cars, doesn't he?
He always does. He always has something interesting. And yesterday he rolled up. I knew he was coming. It's like, what's Kai going to bring? And he showed up in one of those violet E36 kind of
that was his car.
Color.
Oh,
yeah.
You said
this
that car
was the nicest one. Oh,
yeah,
man, it was so good.
That's awesome.
I had to take a ride in it because the Turo car that I rented, I was so excited that I found a 2016 GTI with a stick for my trip to Seattle, and I knew we were going to take a day and go do a drive in the mountains at some of my favorite roads. And, of course, the clutch return spring or probably the master cylinder or something failed. The clutch pedal wouldn't come back up, and so I had to leave the car 150 miles from Seattle. I had to leave it in Winthrop because the car failed on me, and I had to ride back in the E36, which wasn't terrible. That was pretty fun.
A manual Turo with a bad clutch. Go figure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a salvage car. The kid that rented it. Yeah, so if you're looking on Turo and you're going, hey, let's rent a car, and you're looking through there and you're going to Seattle and you see a kind of gray GTI, just run away from that thing. It is I'm quite positive it's a theft recovery or something. It's such a piece of junk.
Theft recovery is a good take.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what it was.
Oh, boy. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you tomorrow. Michael D, good job. We're going to say
thanks, Lane.
Goodbye.
Get the word!